tawag ko na sir. Sessions resumed.
Thank you. Mr. President, before the suspension, we were tackling the budget of the Civil Service Commission, and there was interpellation from Senator Gordon. We were informed by Senator Gordon thereafter that he has terminated his interpellations, and therefore I now move to submit to the body, for the body's consideration, the budget of the Civil Service Commission.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none. The motion with the majority leader is carried.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now I move to consider the budget of the Department of Public Works and Highways.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Motion is carried.
Thank you, Mr. President. May I have a 1 minute suspension?
Session suspended.
Lauren. Marami. Marami.
Malaki. Malaki.
Ready to resume, Mr. President.
Sessions resumed. Majority Leader.
Yes, we are now tackling the budget of the Department of Public Works and Highways. So I move to recognize again the sponsor, Senator Loren Legarda, Chairman of the Committee on Finance, to sponsor the budget. May we have the presentation, Mr. President?
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is carried. The chairperson, the dashing chairperson of Senate Committee on Finance is now recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. The total DPWH budget, the Senate version is 627,879,811,000. There's a 1 billion increase, but before you get alarmed, Mr. President, the increase in the 1 billion of the DPWH is merely the movement of the Quick Response Fund, which was lodged under the NDREAM Fund in the present year's budget. But because of the request of agencies which need a QRF under our NDREAM law, we decided to lodge it under the respective agencies for quicker access for the QRF. Dahil po, Mr. President, ang quick response ay naging mabagal na response kung hihilingin pa po sa NDREAM Fund. And so that was a decision of your committee for the 2018 budget. And that is the reason for the 1 billion increase in DPWH, because it was earmarked anyway under the NDREAM Fund. We simply put it there for budgetary purposes. But the utilization does not change.
Sir, Majority Leader.
All right, thank you, Mr. President. May we now recognize Senator Pamphilo Lacson to start off the interpellations.
Any objection? Chair hears none. Senator Ping Lacson, the gentleman from Cavite, is now recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Will the distinguished sponsor of the General Professor's Bill for 2018 yield to some very few questions, Mr. President?
I am ready to answer the very few questions of my Vice Chair, Mr. President.
Thank you. Let me begin my interpellation with the interesting case of Kilometer 0193. Specifically, Kilometer 0193 plus 500 to Kilometer 0193 plus 600, or a stretch of 100 meters of national road located in Barangay Putlan, Caranglan, Nueva Ecija. Based on the 2016 General Professions Act,
Anyway.
Page 916, kindly check. 2016 GAA, page 916, under the DPWH budget, there was an appropriation of 300 million pesos for that 100-meter stretch of national road. Meaning, if we go per linear meter, Mr. President, we're talking of 3 million pesos per meter. May we be informed of the status of the project? Page 916,
Okay.
2016 GAA, entitled, ito yung heading, Rehabilitation, Reconstruction of National Roads with Slip, Slope, Collapse, and Landslides. I'm interested as you are because doon sa pinakamatangkad kong staff sa opisina, isang hakbang lang yung 1 meter eh. So, let's say 1 gallop costs 3 million pesos.
Yeah. Mr. President, the regional directors are not here. The USEC for regional operations would want to be certain with the answers. Can we proceed to your next question until such time that they check with the Region 3 director? Then we will promise to address that specific
On this
question
day.
because I myself am interested to know how much is it per meter, Mr. President?
3 million pesos.
Is that the cost per meter of construction of roads now?
Well, 300 million pesos divided by 100 meters
Yeah.
costs 3 million pesos per meter.
3 million pesos per meter
Per
of
meter.
per meter,
Yeah.
not kilometer,
Per meter.
of roads.
Because
Of-
it's only
Yeah.
kilometer 0193, between kilometer 0193 plus 500 and kilometer 0193 plus 600 would be 100 meters. $100 meters, Mr. President. Okay, ganito na lang. Para madali, while awaiting the feedback from your regional director. Mr.
Mr. President, yes. Tinanong ko po magkano ba per kilometer? Around 20 million.
Yes, I know.
So per meter is
Two-lane
around
road, Mr. President, 15 million.
Yes.
Four-lane road, around 35.
Okay. Tapos tinanong, di-compute po
Six-lane road,
natin.
around 40 meter,
Yes,
40 million
Mr. President.
per kilometer.
So ang isang metro po na kalsada, sabihin na natin 300,000. 300,000. Sabihin mo na ang pinakamahusay, 300,000. Kaya yung 3 million na sinasabi nyo ay napakalayo. Kaya ang hinihiling ko rin pong sagot nila, na tulungan akong sagutin kayo, anong klaseng kalsada ang ating tinayo na naging 3 milyong piso isang metro?
That's why I'm asking for specifics, Mr. President.
I don't have the answer yet, but exact road? Saang Maharlika? Mr. President, is it Saang Maharlika in kilometer 193? It says here that there is a slope protection construction.
This
And
is
that
the heading.
is
I
the
read-
scope.
I read a while ago for the record the exact heading of the
Yes.
item.
Yes.
It's rehabilitation, reconstruction of national roads with slips, slope, collapse, and landslides.
You're correct, Mr. President.
Kilometer 0193 plus 500
Yes.
to kilometer 0193 plus 600.
I read that also here, Mr.
So
President.
that's 100 meters.
100 meters.
The first question is, what is the status of that project?
What is
Tapos
the
na ba ito?
status? They're checking now. They're checking 2016.
Mr. President, with your indulgence, I will no longer allow yung utang kasi for 16 years, we've been interpolating on the floor. Lahat ng pinangako nila, wala silang sinasubmit.
Hindi po utang, dahil ako rin po gusto ko malaman ito. Kung gusto nyo, isuspend muna natin ang interpellation
Okay.
dito, ibang ahensya muna. Kung maaari po ay magtanong kayo ng ibang tanong na kaya kong sagutin dahil ito po ay hindi nila kayang sagutin ngayon din. But we are asking them, give 30 minutes. 10 minutes
Okay.
to ask the regional director. Then if we can proceed to another question, then I promise you, we will get back to the answer to this
Okay,
question.
next question. For
Yes.
this year, GAA 2017, there's another 300 million pesos for the same stretch of road. So that makes 600 million already.
Karanglan. Which town
Daang
is-
Maharlika, kilometer 0193 plus 500 to kilometer 0193 plus 600. It's in Barangay Putlan, Karanglan, Nueva Ecija, Mr. President. The same, exactly the same description. So naging 6 million na per meter, Mr. President. No, Nueva Ecija. Paki-check na rin kung anong nangyari. It's on page 741 of the 2017 GAA.
Can we proceed to the
Okay.
next question?
To proceed,
While they're asking,
under the 2018 General Appropriations Bill, there is yet another 300 million pesos for that same stretch of road. Kilometer 0193 plus
Yes.
500 to kilometer 0193 plus 600 in Barangay Putlan, Karanglan, Nueva Ecija. So 900 million na po, Mr. President.
I am informed, Mr. President, that this is a multi-year project. It's a DPWH project. I asked whether it was a congressional insertion. I am informed by Secretary Villar that it is not, that it is a priority project of the Department of Public Works.
Nevertheless, Mr. President,
your question
that's
is-
already 9 million per meter.
Okay, Mr. President, they're asking the regional director now the status of the project. Your question is, what is the status? They're asking the regional director. Number two, the cost. I would request them to give me the cost. But clearly, Mr. President, if it's a long, direct, or straight stretch of road, it obviously cannot be compared to a narrow, winding a slope. And that is, I understand this is an area that is mountainous, that is very dangerous. Accidents have happened here. I am not sure
Mr. President.
whether 9 million pesos per meter is actually a reasonable amount. All
It is not.
I'm saying is that the cost obviously could not be compared to a national highway, a provincial road, or a straight road. But let me just get the facts, Mr. President, and we will get back to Daang Maharlika. But I understand your concern of the perceived overprice. Yes. Mr. President, let's also put on record that slope protection in the construction
understand,
is
Mr. President.
also integrated in the costing.
I understand, Mr.
Yes.
President.
And slope protection, Mr. President, is measured in square meters and not linear
I
meters.
understand, Mr. President.
Yes,
In
Yes.
fact, I had the place inspected. I had
Yes.
the site inspected over the weekend.
yes.
And this is what we found out. No? Within the stretch of 100 meters, I repeat, kilometer 0193 plus 500 to kilometer 0193 plus 600. So 100 meters po ito. It is a completed concrete road, national road in Barangay Putlan. No? From the road itself, there is a 20 to 40 meter slope upward. So, madaling compute nito. 20 to 40 meter slope upward. And another 150 to 200 downward slope from that road. So, if we compute, assuming that we compute that area on a per square meter basis, and using the high end, meaning 40 meters na yung paakyat at 200 meters na yung pababa. So, 40 meters upward, yung upward slope, times 100 meters, that would be 4,000 square meters. And the high end ng downward slope, kasi ang calculation is 150 to 200. So 200 na. 200 meters times 100 meters, so that's 20,000. 20,000 square meters. Kasi, yeah, 20,000 square meters. Plus 4,000 square meters, ipuwero na natin yung kalsada kasi gawa na eh. So 24,000 square meters. I divided 900 million, yun yung appropriations for 3 successive years, including next year. Divided by 24,000 square meters. Yun yung upward slope and downward slope. Will come up with 37,500 per square meter. Mr. President, pag nagpagawa tayo ng building at nagpa-finishing tayo, magkano per square meter ang finishing? Di ba mga 20,000? Oh, si our distinguished colleague, how much? Okay, 25 or 30,000. No, Mr. President, let me repeat. Hello, Mr. President.
1 minute, 1 minute. Mr.
1 minute suspension.
Session suspended.
Oh, just answer me. Anong bun-
Session is resumed.
Okay. Mr. President. Okay. This is in response to the question of Senator Lacson on Daang Maharlika in Nueva Ecija. The project is 40,000 square meters. Yes, it is a multi-year funding totaling 900 million for next year. It is actually not just the road construction, but slope protection. In fact, the whole 40,000 square meters is not for road construction, but for slope protection of 400 meters from the road to the top in this whole area. Mr. President, the cost per square meter, target cost of the construction for the whole slope protection of the 40,000 square meter project is 18,900 pesos, more or less. This is not for the road, but for the slope protection. In 2016, the good senator was asking for a status, 52% completion of the slope protection of the 300 million allocation for that year. They realized that the funds will expire by December this year. 75% of the materials are located on site. For the 2017 provision of another 300 million, 36% completion. They understand of the one-year cycle that December the funds will expire. 50% of the materials are on site. As you yourself said, there is a provision, Mr. President, in 2018 of another 300 million for the completion of this multi-year public works project.
I have here table 1.4. I suppose this came from DPWH, Cost estimates for work items of projects. This is as of December 2016. It says Region 3, slope protection per linear meter. It's for grouted riprap, 4.9 million pesos. For stone masonry, 11.6 million. Where did the 40,000 per square meter come from? Sir?
Let me clarify, Mr. President. It is not 40,000 per square meter. I am informed that the slope protection project of Daang Maharlika, the road and the slope protection, is a total of 40,000 square meters. And the cost or target cost of construction for the slope protection of the 40,000 square meter project is 18,900. So the cost, Mr. President, is not 40,000 per square meter.
So how much?
It is 18,900 per square meter. But the project is 40,000 square meter big. But it is not just the narrow road in this zigzagging area, but 400 meters elevation from the road to the top of the mountain in Caranglan, Nueva Ecija.
How about the downward slope, Mr. President?
Kasama po yun. So, yung buong proyekto po, sa aking pagkaalam, ay 40,000 square meters at a target cost of 18,900 per square meter.
Of course, excluding the road itself because it's already completed.
Yes,
No?
yes. In fact, I am informed that this is really a slope protection project.
And
Mr.
you
President.
mentioned that it's now 52% completed, meaning the slope protection.
Hindi po. 52% po ang 2016
Yes.
allocation of 300 million. Meaning, and 75% of the materials are on site. But 36% of the 300 million of this year's allocation of 300 million.
Can you
Not
kindly
52% of the whole project, sir, because it's a multi-year project and the third tranche of 300 million will still be provided by next year. Mr. President, they also used a high-strength mesh utilized, which is also quite expensive. I was asking, is this mesh similar to what I know that they see, and I'm glad that they use it? May mga coco wire, coconet, hindi kaya siguro, kaya bakal po ang ginagamit sa high-strength mesh. Dahil sa aking pagkaalam, marami daw mga falling boulders, rocks, because it's a mountainous area. Ayan, yan. They actually have photos here, Mr. President, of the construction. Matirik. Mukhang matirik na this is Kalayaan Lupal. This is not the project. This is a sample of the mesh, the high-strength mesh.
Ito po yung video nung this was taken just over the weekend.
Yes, Mr. President. Allow me to put on record also that there is what are the reasons for the additional cost. There's active protection system, there's a permanent ground anchor, erosion control, hydro seeding, because it is an area that is not that is a vulnerable area, and they're doing this for resilience. Accident. I think I've passed through that.
I think we deserve better explanation than that. Anyway, moving on. Next item is this is a 3.658 kilometers of road in let's skip that, no? Next item, 3.658 kilometer of road project, ano? Kilometers of road project. Phase 1, Baguio to Bawang Road, Kamog Junction to Kamog, Baningbeng, Barangay boundary section.
Si Sharina, wow.
Ang cost po nito is 150 million. This is under the 2017 GAA. How much does a two-lane concrete road cost?
A kilometer, Mr. President, costs around 20 million
Per kilometer.
per kilometer.
So, if the appropriations for this road project is 150 million, divided by 3.658 million, that's 41 million per kilometer for a two-lane road, Mr. President. Including right-of-way, that's
Yes.
correct.
Bengueton.
Yeah, Benguet. I'll show you the how the concreting itself would appear, no, Mr. President. Ayan. Kung motorsiklo po ito, two-lane road. Kung magsasalubong, dalawang motorsiklo. Kasi wala laman yung gitna eh.
Na ba yan? Oh, bakit nga ganyan? Tapos na. Mr. President, sabi po ni Secretary Mark, hindi po dapat ganyan ang itsura.
Hindi talaga dapat ganyan kasi 2 lanes. Dapat 2 lanes eh.
Baka po hindi pa tapos. Can we ask the status?
Is it a bike lane, Your
Mr.
Honor?
President, I wanted to clarify, is it a 2-lane car road or is it a 2-lane
Looks like a bike lane for me.
motorcycle road?
Well, it depends. If it's a 2
Ganyan ang standard. Mr. President, hindi po ganyan po ang standard ng DPWH. Maliwanag po sa ating lahat na hindi po mukhang tapos yung kalsadang yan. Can we ask the... Ano po ang pangalan? What is the name of this road that you're referring to?
It is the Baguio, Bawan. It's on page 801 of the 2017 GAA, Mr. President.
Can you check, please?
Naon yun.
Is this a Baguio La Trinidad?
It's phase
Ito
1, Baguio Bawan Road, o Bawang Road, Camog Junction to Camog, Panengbeng, boundary section.
Mr. President, yes. First, Mr. President,
There's only one Camog Junction, Mr. President. To Panengbeng Barangay boundary section.
Mr.
Yes, there's a
President,
marker. There's a marker.
Mr. President, first, indeed, there is such a road project in the NEP and in the GAB, in the 2017 GAA. Correct.
2017.
However, the photo is not familiar to DPWH. And they say that there is no such road that they would construct as a 2-lane road. In that fashion, the way it is.
But, ayan, Mr. President, oh, andyan na nga yung picture eh. Sinong gumawa nito?
They're not sure whether tugma po yung inyong tinutukoy at yung kalsadang yan.
Kindly show the sign at the junction. Okay, let's move on, Mr. President. Anyway, we'll just request DPWs to provide us the details
Yes.
of that road
I've
junction.
requested them to call the CAR regional director.
Please, Mr. President.
Yes.
So,
So
we
that-
can,
Because what you're doing would help them. Indeed, if there is such a 2-lane road which is incomplete,
that is the intention to help them, Mr. President.
yes.
Let's now go to the line item budget with right-of-way payment. Sariaya, bypass including road, including right-of-way, Sariaya, Quezon, 2nd Legislative District. This can be found on page 949 of the 2016 GAA, Mr. President. 200 million pesos. Kindly update us on the status of these
What's the
projects
status
from
of
the
the
2016 GAA.
Status.
Since this is under the 2016 GAA, can we assume that
20
kompleto na ito, completed na itong project?
This is under the 2016
16
GAA.
GAA, yes.
In 3 months, the funds will expire, and you want the status of the road.
Yes, Mr. President. Because this is 200 million. project cost is 200 million pesos. And there's another 200 million Tayabas bypass, including bridge and right-of-way in Tayabas, Quezon, another 200 million under the 2016 GAA. May we be informed of the status of these projects, these two projects, Mr. President?
Mr. President, Secretary Villar has been to these projects. They're ongoing. It's in an advanced stage of construction. What information do you need about the projects, Mr.
Status of the
President?
project?
Percentage-wise?
Yes, percentage-wise.
We will have to request the regional director. So what's pending in our submission to you would be the Cordillera Benguet-Itogon Road earlier with a two-lane
And this-
tricycle road.
Yeah.
And if it's correct, and what's the exact status, and this Sariaya Road, that's 200 million, which is a 2016 GAA-funded road.
And another 200 million project in Tayabas bypass, including bridge.
President, it would be helpful if you make a rundown of all your questions so that they can...
I will, Mr.
Call-
President. That's what we're doing now, Mr. President.
Okay, then they're listing it down. They will ask the regional directors, and then they can give you a comprehensive report.
Itong Tayabas bypass road, according to information, 300 meters pa lang yung nagagawa. And 2016 GAA ito, budget, mag-expire na to in, what, 2 months? Or 3 months? 300 meters pa lang yung nagagawa eh.
Mr. President, yes, when it's obligated, you know that
Yeah, of course.
as
I
well,
know.
that
They can still
the
proceed.
construction will proceed till next year.
Yes. But according to the contractor, malambot yung lupa kaya hindi sila makaproceed. So what does this indicate? Maybe sabihin, walang planning. When you request for appropriation itong project, hindi tiningnan ng planning division ng DPWH, ano ba yung dadaanan ng kalsada? So what will we do now? They will make a diversion and it will cost the government more pesos and centavos. Kasi sabi, hindi makaproceed because malambot yung lupa eh.
Walang plan. Mr. President, I am informed that the soil testing is done after the appropriation is made. And may mga remedyo. There are interventions like soil stabilization in the construction in case the soil is soft, like what you mentioned.
Is it the soil testing supposed to be done before they ask for appropriations? How would they now estimate the cost kung di alam yung soil, kung walang soil testing? What's the basis for asking for 200 million pesos in the first place?
Mr. President, as I mentioned earlier, the soil testing is done after the appropriation is made. And the soil testing is done every interval. And sometimes, hindi po pare-pareho ang lupa. Sometimes they're soft, sometimes it's appropriate, and there are interventions that can be done, including soil stabilization that can be done. But it doesn't mean when the soil testing is done and it's soft, that it will be soft all the way. Because it's every 50 meters that's being tested.
My question is, isn't that supposed to be done before they even requested for the appropriation? For the amount? Because how would they know how much the project would cost kung wala silang due diligence?
You want to go there?
Well, if
No.
they assume it's normal and then it's not normal,
Mr. President, I asked that same question. Is the soil testing not done before the appropriation is requested
that should
for?
be the case, Mr. President.
I am informed that the soil testing is done after the appropriation because before that, there is no appropriation, there is no funds to utilize for the soil testing.
Appropriation has nothing to do with the planning because when you plan to build a road, you should know more or less where that road would pass. And that's the only time after the soil testing and all that you will know, that you should know how much the project would cost.
For budgetary estimates, Mr. President, there's a parametric estimate that they do. And only after the appropriation has been done will the soil testing be done. And that's when they will know what kind of soil exists under there. But there are interventions that can be done. And
saan
they
po-
actually, then they do modifications if the conditions of the project change during the detailed.
So saan nila ginagamit yung feasibility study appropriations? I'll show you later. There's one project here which feasibility study would cost 300 million pesos just for one project. Imagine.
Feasibility?
Feasibility study. We can show it on the screen. Skip natin tong Just go straight to the feasibility study.
No. Before that, I hope someone from DPWH is listening.
Saan natin
this
ginagastos yung 300 million kung hindi natin alam yung
calling the
soil?
regional director. Hindi. Yes, can we proceed to the next, please? Feasibility
Yes,
study.
let's go straight para related. Feasibility study.
Charge of the
Yeah. There's one project, ang cost ng feasibility study, 300 million. Hindi pa ba ma-soil testing yan? Sa feasibility study? Para alam natin, hindi na tayo iwas yung road. So my next question is, kindly explain why a feasibility study would cost the government 300 million pesos? Anong klaseng feasibility study yun? Paki-highlight mo nga yung feasibility study. There. Merong 300 million, merong 100 plus million. Ito, Mr. President, feasibility study of Candaba, Rio, Chico, Retarding Basin, and Pampanga, including Delta Development Project, Phase 2, Pampanga and Nueva Ecija, 300 million pesos. Feasibility study and detailed engineering design of seawall alignment in the municipalities of Minalabak, Pasacao, and San Fernando, Camarines Sur, 130 million pesos. Feasibility study and detailed engineering design for the proposed flood control projects in Bicol River Basin, 100 million pesos. Kindly explain, Mr. President. Tapos soil testing, hindi mapasama dito.
Mr. President, you're referring to the three projects. Pampanga Delta is at 20 kilometers, San Antonio Nueva Ecija 50 kilometers, and Candaba Pampanga 100 kilometers. And the feasibility study for big ticket projects such as this would really cost by the hundreds of millions of pesos, Mr. President. And a feasibility study usually costs 2% of the civil works cost, and a detailed engineering is 6% of the civil works cost.
What is the stretch? What's the measurement, Mr. President? 100 kilometers?
No, Mr. President. Candaba, which is one of the three, I believe, with the feasibility study, is a 100-kilometer project, if I'm not mistaken. This is what they give me. San Antonio, 50 kilometers, and Pampanga Delta, 20 kilometers. And the 620 for feasibility study is for these three projects. And this is really the usual amount for feasibility studies of such big projects.
And there's no soil testing in the feasibility study? Detailed engineering, nakalagay. Detailed engineering design.
Feasibility study, Mr. President, the soil testing is not included.
So, oh my.
I am told, Mr. President, that there's minimal soil testing in the feasibility
Why is that,
study.
Mr. President?
But minimal lang, but it's not, but the accuracy level is very low. Mr. President, you're referring to the river basin feasibility studies. It's actually a lot of projects, not just the three I mentioned. No? And if your question is this the real cost of the feasibility study? Yes, it is, Mr. President. These are the usual costs because the project costs vary. And these are major projects.
This is part of the issue, Mr. President. This is actually lump sum appropriations. Wala man details eh. 690 million.
Mr. President, may I read the details into the record? I mentioned the Chico Basin and the Delta Basin in Pampanga and Nueva Ecija, that's 300 million. There's a feasibility study for Bicol River Basin, 100 million. It's not, I'm sorry, it's not a lump sum. There's the Inalbac, Pasacao, and San Fernando Camsur engineering design, 130.7 billion. There's the Boston River and Mainit River, 30 million. There's the master plan and feasibility study for Angalacan Rivers and Sinocalan and Marosoy Rivers, 60 million. There's engineering design for the Bawang River, Pamplona River, 60 million. And Catarman Camiguin also has 9.5. So, Mr. President, it is not a lump sum. These are feasibility studies and detailed engineering designs for principal river basins, which I mentioned. Close the aircon, please.
Okay, let's move on, Mr. President.
Just for additional information, Mr. President, distribution of the allocation for feasibility studies, preliminary and detailed engineering, it's based on the pro rata percentage distribution of the total allocation of the regional and district offices. What are included in the computation of the percentage? National Road Network Services, Flood Management Services, Convergence Program, and Local Program. And the percentage of the preliminary and detailed engineering should be 3 to 6% of the total project cost. In the case of the DPWH budget, it is only 0.5% or 3.2 billion allocation with regional breakdown versus a total capital outlay program of 602 billion. Very good.
Okay, Mr. President, next item. Last Thursday, during the General Principles Interpellations, a distinguished colleague, Senator Villar, who happens to be an experienced developer and a, well, I would say, loving mother of the Secretary of Public Works, she identified the issue on right-of-way as one of the culprits, if not the biggest culprit, of underspending, you know. And in fact, just to refresh our memory, Mr. President, meron kong video clip. And with the permission of the chairperson.
And besides, I think there is something wrong with how they make the DPWH budget. I think the proponents of the projects, when they ask for a budget, they ask for both the right-of-way budget and the construction budget. I suggested that if we ask for a budget, during the first year, we ask for the right-of-way budget because it takes a year to rather to take care of the right-of-way. So if you included in your budget the construction, then definitely the construction cannot be done in 1 year. That's why I'm always saying to the DPWH that you have to ask the proponents, put first a budget for the right-of-way, take care of the right-of-way, and the next year, you ask for the construction budget so the underspending will go down. But you know, this proponent, they're so excited about the budget. They want all the budget, and the result is they're not able to implement the budget. That's why there is a lot of underspending at the DPW.
In other words, it's poor planning.
Thank you,
Yes.
Mr. President.
But you can...
Okay. As correctly pointed out by Senator Villar, meron talaga special provision starting from the 2015 GAA. Ito, special provisions, 13, provision number 13, right-of-way, acquisition and obligations, 2015. The amounts appropriated herein for infrastructure projects which cover cost for ROW acquisition shall be used exclusively for the payment of ROW, acquisition expenses and costs incurred for the removal and relocation of informal settlers and occupants on the land and property, provided that the DPWH shall resolve all ROW issues prior to the commencement or prior to commencement of any infrastructure projects. In no case shall said amount be used to any or for any other purpose. In 2016, the same special provision number 12, pareho rin ang wordings. 2017, ganun din. No? Exact wordings, yung amount of 19,600,000,000 and so forth and so on, appropriated herein shall be used exclusively for ROW. In short, I even commented that I could not agree more with the distinguished lady from Las Piñas, na tama yun, dapat unahin muna yung ROW before we appropriate funds for the construction of the roads. But let's look at the total of projects including right-of-way payment. 86 billion pesos, Mr. President. We're able to list 626 projects amounting to 86.23 billion. Kasama rito yung right-of-way. So, as correctly pointed out by Senator Villar, underspending na naman ito because we cannot obligate the funds for the construction of the roads because we have to settle first the right-of-way, the issue of right-of-way. So why are they asking for an appropriation of 86 billion plus for road projects to include right-of-way? That is the question, Mr. President.
Mr. President, the budget in the NEP that, and in the GAB that the DPWH is asking for 2018 is 51.48 billion for right-of-way. And I have the details here.
I also have the details, 51
Yes.
billion, Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. President.
But what I'm referring to is the 86.23 billion appropriations for road projects, including right-of-way. Why would we include, as correctly pointed out, again, as suggested by
Mr.
Senator
President,
Villar.
may I have suspension?
Session suspended.
Yung 81, di ba? Right-of-way.
Ready to resume, Mr. President.
Sessions resumed.
Mr. President, the 51 billion that the sponsor mentioned is different from the 86 billion.
I understand it
Yes.
now. May I explain?
Please.
Yes. Mr. President,
Sit.
the 51 billion payment for right-of-way are ready to be paid, Mr. President. While the 86 billion are not all right-of-way payments, they are new projects and where a part of the 86 billion will be for the acquisition of right-of-way or for the payment of right-of-way, which also includes the project itself. And so the civil works. And so, Mr. President, the difference between the 51 and 86 is the 51 are all right-of-way payments that need to be made.
The
While
51.
Yes, sir. And the 86 billion are projects including right-of-way payments which are considered part of the new.
For a total of 137 billion.
Yes, but 137 is not all right-of-way because, as I said, the 86 billion is the whole project cost including right-of-way.
Yeah, but that would result in underspending in 2019 or in 2018. Because if you include the right-of-way in the road construction and you fail to settle the right-of-way issue, then you cannot start the project, the road construction project. It goes without saying, Mr. President.
Anyway, Mr. President, so itabi na po natin yung 51 billion.
Yeah,
no?
okay.
Kasi talagang
Settled na yun.
naka-itemize po yan for payment na. Ito pong 86 billion are projects where may right-of-way allocation at meron pong civil works allocation. Para po mabilis, pinondohan na po yung right-of-way, kasama na po at pag inaayos na po yung right-of-way, nandyan na rin yung pondo para sa civil works para po magawa na kaagad.
Eh kung hindi ba settle yung right-of-way?
Eh di babalik po yung pondo.
Eh di underspending nga. And that's a clear violation of Special Provision number 12, right-of-way acquisition. This is under the 2018 GAB, the President. And for the record, in the implementation of infrastructure projects, the DPWH shall ensure that all right-of-way expenses authorized under RA number 10752 are settled before commencement of projects. So kung pinopropose pa lang yung appropriations for right-of-way to be included in the road construction, that's exactly what the lady, our colleague from Las Piñas,
Yes, Mr.
pointed
President,
out.
let me explain, Mr. President. The reason why the right-of-way payment and the civil works project is lodged together for a total of 80+ billion. Mr. President, if there's a problem, let's say with the right-of-way, with the owners, then they will expropriate. Then they have the funds to deposit their payment, and then they will expropriate the land needed for the project.
So when we meet again next year, there'll be no underspending.
Yes, they assure me that, Mr. President. Otherwise,
Is that a promise, Mr. President? Eh, ito lang pag-uusapan natin taon-taon eh.
I really understand where you're coming from, Mr. President, because DPWH is one of the agencies with huge underspending. And we really don't want to see waste. And when I sit here next year and you will ask me that question, I hope that my answer will be that they have actually utilized or obligated and actually utilized their funds. Now, what have they done to improve their infrastructure spending? They created, Mr. President, a right-of-way task force to minimize delays in project implementation of the big-ticket projects. They created this task force that would cater and deal only with the authorities and agencies where the clearances and approvals must be secured to significantly hasten its acquisition for the prompt implementation of big projects. And then they revised this right-of-way acquisition manual pursuant to the new right-of-way law. And they also created an infrastructure monitoring advisory group that will enable transparent monitoring of the big-ticket projects. And they also implemented project and contract management application, improved efficiency, transparency, etc. And they've geotagged photos of that. They also have enforced 24/7 work schedule on major infra projects, and they've streamlined the procurement process based on a new procurement manual. So we hope that they will not use next year a reason, the procurement law, for the delays or the underspending. And then they also created a multimedia citizens feedback mechanism to take action on any complaint. They also pursued overseas development assistance on complex projects, etc. There are many more. They revisited the level of authority of district engineering offices based on performance and absorptive capacity. And they conducted advanced procurement, short bid of award, and detailed engineering design activities. These are just some, Mr. President, some of the actions, proactive actions that they've done to curb, if not totally eliminate, underspending.
In that case, Mr. President, what is the status of all projects in the current year or even in 2016
That will expire in
No.
20...
that include ROWs? Kung talagang gagawin nila yan, dapat ginagawa nila ngayon. So ano yung status ng mga projects with the inclusion of right-of-way? first and then 2017. Kasi if you promise to resolve the issue of right-of-way in 2018, there's no reason why you cannot resolve the issue of right-of-way in 2017 or even in 2016. Kung di mo nga nagawa ngayon, paano mo magagawa next year?
Mr. President, for 2017, out of 19.6 billion, 16.9 billion have been released, which corresponds to 86.42% of the total allocation for right-of-way. And of the 19.6 billion, 86.42 or 16.9 billion was released to the implementing offices. The remaining 2.6 billion or 13.5% will be released once, or we will they will be requesting it from DBM once the list of claimants have been submitted by the implementing offices. So it's actually a good obligation, insofar as obligation is concerned, that there is an 86.42% utilization for 2017.
It's good that you pointed it out. I have here a slide that will show the intent of the appropriations for ROW. No? Makita nyo yung pattern. Okay. 2018, no? Unahin natin. Sa NEP, 56.4 billion pesos. Ano nangyari sa GAB? Nabuwasan siya ng 5 billion pesos. Saan napunta? Insertions. 2017, 32.4 billion pesos sa NEP. Ano nangyari sa GAB? 21.5 billion. And I can only sympathize with Senate or Secretary Villar here because ito na nga yung ginagamit ng mga congressmen sa baba to realign. So bloated yung right-of-way appropriations in the NEP para pagdating sa House, look at the pattern, no? 5 billion and another 5 billion. No, 11 billion ang nawala sa 2017 pagdating sa GAB. Kaya nga naging 19.6 billion. So now, they're asking for 137 billion pesos. Magkano na sa GAB ngayon yun?
51.
51 sa NEP.
56.
56. Oh, that's another 5 billion. Where did it go, Mr. President? The 5 billion pesos, yung differential sa NEP and the GAB.
May I ask for 1 minute suspension, Mr. President?
Session suspended.
Yeah.
Session is resumed.
If you notice, Mr. President, I hate to belabor this issue, but if you notice, noong 2017, ba 32 sa NEP. Pagdating ng GAB, naging 21. Pagkatapos ng BICAM, nabuwasan pa uli, naging 19 na lang. My question is, saan napunta yung difference between 32 and 19? And that's what? 13 billion pesos. Mr. President, saan po napunta yun? We should know.
Mr. President, sagutin ko na lang yung 51. Well, yung 51 I mentioned earlier are out to be paid already. And this is various completed projects nationwide, including payment of utility relocation, including electric cooperative, Meralco, and others. Oh, billion. Various ongoing projects. Perhaps we will ask them to submit the 33 billion and the 5 billion completed and ongoing projects, or 38 billion of the 51 billion submitted to us. Metro Manila Expressway Project, C6, 7 billion. Manila Cavite Expressway, C5, 2.7 billion. Southern Luzon Expressway, 1.4 billion. GSIS property in Santa Mesa, 17 billion. So that comprises more or less a 51.4 billion. Now, you were asking me about the
86
billion. I don't have a complete list because I have to go through all this list of projects.
I have a list here, Mr. President, and I'll show you. Some of these items are actually lump sum. For example, Daang Maharlika, including right-of-way, 200 million. Daang Maharlika, including right-of-way, 200 million. Daang Maharlika, including right-of-way, 186 billion. Daang Maharlika, including right-of-way, 102 million. Daang Maharlika, including right-of-way, 164, and so forth and so on. Ang haba ng Daang Maharlika, Mr. President. Anong ira-right-of-way mo dun? But at least we should include
Mr.
the kilometer post reading so we can identify. Paano
Mr.
natin
President,
ma-check kung may bahay nga talaga doon o
Mr.
wala?
President, nakalagay po yun. According to them, and Maharlika is the main backbone of a road.
The artery, main artery.
Kaya hindi lang pong isang parang pagbasahin po natin, bakit puro Daang Maharlika? Dahil yun po ang nomenclature na ginagamit na salita. But the kilometer readings are incorporated. It's included in the...
Wala. Let's look at the GAB. If there's...
Can you... The GAB?
Ang reference nga natin dito yung GAB eh. It is so big, Mr. President.
Yes, nakalagay.
Kilometer readings.
For example, Maharlika, kilometer 613 plus 498, kilometer 615 plus 500, nandyan po. Everything, there's kilometer reading.
And so I will not take the time of the other colleagues, Mr. President. Right of way pa rin, yung easement ROW on flood control projects. Mr. President, my question is, why do we need to allocate funds for right of way of the flood control structure when the law provides for easement and that the 3-meter strip along the banks of a stream are non-alienable? Bakit tayo magbabayad ng right of way? Hindi nga pwedeng ibenta yun. Nasa water code pati yan.
If we lived in, Mr. President, if we lived in an ideal world, then we should not spend for this. However, there are residents, there are informal settlers in these non-alienable public lands. And they have to be...
Then let HADSI spend for that, not DPWH.
Mr. President, the funds are lodged in the DPWH because, as I said, there are informal settlers in those areas and some have even titles in non-alienable public
Ano nga
lands.
title yung inalienable yung...
Magaling, magaling.
Ay.
Nakakaso yun.
The indulgence of senators, Senator Gordon would like to
Permission of Senator
interject.
Gentlelady, my comment is if it is right beside a drainage, a waterway, that's a public nuisance. I don't care if they have a title. It's a public nuisance. They can be demolished outright.
Sabihin,
No. That's the real world. That's the real world. All it takes is political will. Because a public nuisance is a public nuisance. You have to take them out.
Senator Villar is recognized.
You know, I implemented a river drive in our city of Las Piñas. It's a 11-kilometer drive. We paid for all the informal set. Even the houses of the non-informal settlers, the residents have to pay because you have to bring down their fence and create another fence in the real boundary of their lots. And then I have to arrange that these informal settlers be transferred to the sites, NH8 sites in Cavite. And I have to pay them, I have to spend 30,000 per informal settler given by the Department of Public Works, not during the time of Secretary Villar, but during the time of Secretary Babe Singson. I was very thankful to Secretary Babe Singson for giving me 30,000 pesos per settler so that I can move them to Naik Cavite because they will not leave the place if you don't give them money. Okay? And all the official residents there, they took over the easement. So we have to break down the walls and transfer the walls to their real boundary. So we have the public work has to spend for that. And there is even a settler who titled the easement. So instead of fighting it in court, I told the Department of Public Works just to pay them so that we can build the road. Otherwise, we will not be able to build the road. And that road will keep our river clean and at the same time solve the traffic sa Pote Alabang Road. This is my personal experience, so don't tell me that you will not make allocation for informal settlers. You cannot do the project without that.
But that's
This
criminal,
is
Mr.
my
President.
personal experience.
That's a criminal act. You know, I'd like to invite your attention to a Supreme Court ruling. GR number 194336, March 11, 2013. Ito yung Pilar Development Corporation versus Ramon Dumadag et al. Sabi rito, there are two kinds of easement according to source, by law or by will of the owners. A legal easement or compulsory easement or an easement by necessity constituted by law has for its object either public use or the interest of private persons. Article 635 of the Code, I suppose this is the Water Code, is specific in saying that all matters concerning easement established for public or communal use shall be governed by the special laws and regulations relating thereto. No, but if we keep on paying people who are violating laws, sana pupunta yung bansa natin, di parang tayong
Mr. President, yes. No,
parang anarchy.
There's anarchy, yes. Mr. President, I agree with you in everything you say. But even in farm lots, let's say in rural areas, maski hindi po nila lupa, nakita nila, magtatanim sila. At pag nabili nyo yung bakanteng lupang yon, babayaran nyo pa ang taong, ayoko masabi nag-squat, nagtanim doon ng ilang taon at yung kanyang mga produkto at yung sabi niyang pagbabantay niya sa lupa na hindi naman sa kanya. Yun po ang reality eh.
Chairman, I have not given up the lecture, I may. I agree with Senator Lacson. And I also agree with
No, it's easier said than done, Mr. President.
that's why there's the law, Your Honor.
There's the law, but who
It
sometimes...
is exceedingly difficult, but so the law is written. Dura lex sed lex. Otherwise,
easy to say.
there will be anarchy. And that's my point, Your Honor.
Talagang
We spend a lot of
nakakainis.
taxpayers' money,
That's true.
and we hide against the legal law. The legal law applies to other things, not to nuisances. There's a nuisance, it's a public nuisance, it can be demolished outright. I mean, I know that my seatmate is quite passionate about this, but you know, well, what is the answer now of the Department of Public Works? Are we just going to allow public nuisances to persist?
Mr. President, we are all lawmakers and all the laws must be followed to the letter. But we also realize that on the ground and as we go out of this hall, we know that laws are being violated left and right, whether they are public works laws, environmental laws. Who follows laws in this country, Mr. President? Clean Air Act na lang, hindi sinusunod eh. Ecological Solid Waste Management na lang, hindi sinusunod eh. Clean Water Act na lang, hindi sinusunod eh. E paano pa po itong mga batas tungkol sa mga easement? Mr. President, let's be realistic. It is really such a nuisance. It is really irritating. It is really disgusting that laws in this country are not being followed. But what do we do? In the meantime,
Then you
there
see-
are informal settlers that need to be treated in a humane manner, that need to be relocated. And that is the reason why there are allocations in the budget for the humane treatment of informal settlers through the DPWH budget or through the HUDCC or the NHA. I am one with Senator Lacson and Senator Gordon in the strict implementation of all laws, including this specific law. But what do we do? Yes, they're nuisance, but they're there in the easements, and there are syndicates that do instant titles illegally of all these public land. What do you do? We ask the police to hold them out, to bowl them out? What do we do? In the meantime, if there are projects of national significance which have to be constructed, then we have to treat these informal settlers and nuisance or syndicates, whichever the case may be, in a humane manner and transfer them elsewhere. And there is a process that needs to be followed.
Well, the process is outlined by the law, and I certainly agree that laws are respected in this country. I can even cite you chapter and verse, drugs, customs, everything.
Mr. President, nakakainis po
that is
talaga.
If I may finish,
Oo.
that is why we're here. And Article 699, the remedies against a public nuisance are a prosecution under the penal code or any local
Ang
ordinance
shabu
or
na
a
nga,
civil
hindi na lang
action
ma-burn ng PDEA.
or abatement without judicial proceedings.
na to ang
But that is why I raise it here, Your Honor. If we don't raise it here,
No, I'm
we will
glad
be
you raised
remiss.
it. Yeah.
We will be remiss of our duties.
I agree with you, Mr. President. There is no debate. In fact, since this morning, I expressed my indignation, my disgust, and frustration. In this country, we can't even burn the 1 million grams of shabu, when the PDEA, whose budget will come later, should be burning it. Because under the law, 72 hours, there should be an ocular inspection by the judge. And within 24 hours, there should be destruction of the shabu. But why is PDEA not doing it? And the judges here and the members of the judiciary said that they could not because first, there are no cases filed. And for those with cases filed, the judges say that it is not their jurisdiction. As we see, it is not easy to implement laws in this anarchic country.
They get away with it because we let them get away with it. And on
We
that
should
note,
not, we should not
Your
get
Honor,
away with it.
on that
That's
note,
why
Your
we should
Honor,
exercise our oversight as lawmakers in the strictest sense possible. It is really irritating and disgusting that laws in this country are not followed.
And we agree with the gentle lady. But that's why we're here, to make sure
That's why everyone in the executive asking for their budget, please implement the law and please be strict in its implementation because we provide you the resources in implementing all the laws that our colleagues are asking to be implemented efficiently and effectively. Kaya, tama po yung inyo. I am not debating with you. I agree with you. And therefore, all agencies who go through their budget here must make sure that they are ready to implement the laws strictly, and we will exercise our oversight function.
I will just
And I will be happy to cut the budget of agencies who don't implement the laws whose mandate they are supposed to implement.
I agree with the gentle lady, as usual. But all I'm saying, and she's right, all government agencies have legal officers. And there are processes in this country. And I heard the gentle lady from Las Piñas tell me that I don't implement. I've been an implementer all my life. if you wanted, if the gentle lady wishes to debate with me, she can stand up instead of making side comments because I respect her too much. You know? No, Your Honor, I still
Ang
recognize Your
ibig
Honor.
sabihin lang po ni Senator Villar,
Can we have 1 minute
I am
suspension,
done,
please?
I'm done.
1 minute suspension.
okay.
Session is resumed. Majority Leader.
Yes, for the continuation, Mr. President, Senator Lacson and the sponsor, Senator Legarda, Senator Villar wishes to make a manifestation.
Senator Villar is recognized for her manifestation.
Mr. President, I don't want to believe that I am the only one who had the same problem. I would like a manifestation from Senator Drilon because he experienced the same problem in the Iloilo River. Senator Drilon can tell his story, and this gentleman from Valenzuela is a former mayor. You better tell your story.
Thank you, Senator
The
Villar.
Minority Leader is recognized.
Okay,
To tell her
Mr.
story.
President, before that,
Yes, what?
before that, all of these interjections or interventions are to justify the funding for the informal settlers who are staying in easements. So just to put everything in context, why were this?
All right. Well, to me personally, I believe that the illegal or the informal settlers these days is no longer a question of law, because at the stage of our civil and political development, you just cannot drive them out without remedial measures being taken. In the case of, in my home city, I had about 1,000 informal settlers on the river, on the road widening, which was seen by Secretary Villar. Before I widened the road and before I cleaned the river, the first thing I did was to ask for funds from the NHA, 175 million, and put up 1,000 units of housing. And when we were able to put up the housing units, I had no problem relocating the informal settlers. So that validates the theory that we cannot just remove these people. We just have to compensate them. I'm sorry, we just have to help them be relocated in order to avoid the social problem. Legally, we have all the right. But socially, we have to recognize the social problem of lack of housing and the assistance needed by those informal settlers in order that we can proceed with the government projects. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Senator Drilon.
Mr. President, allow me to put
Yes.
on record that indeed the minority leader is correct. It's the NHA that is the agency responsible for the determination of the budget to be allocated for relocation, transport, housing, and other related expenses to be incurred in the resettlement. Then the NHA will submit the computation to the DPWH, and both agencies will enter into a MOA regarding this matter. But if the ISF will decide to be relocated, an assistance will be provided for the relocation, transport, and housing expenses, and if not, financial assistance will be given to the...
Yes. Senator Lacson.
Yes, Mr. President. Another issue. During last year's deliberation of the DPWH budget, and we all know this, I raised the matter of the 8.3 billion pesos lodged in the budget of the DPWH, but implementation would be in the arm area. And we all agreed, after the minority leader proposed that we transfer instead the said amount to the to fund the scholarship program of the under CHED. It was transferred. Now, after the BICAM, we noticed that there's 4,067,800,000 pesos, which was returned to ARM. I don't know where the amount came from because the 8.3 was intact or is intact for this year's scholarship program. But somehow, during the BICAM, there's 4,067,000,000 plus that was returned to ARM for implementation or returned to the DPWH for implementation of projects within the ARM area. My question is, what is the status of the funds of the?
Haba po ang...
I would just like to find out kung nag-implement ba o hindi ang DPWH.
No. No, Mr. President.
Oh, thank you very much.
But there's a long answer. The status of the 2016 and 2017 ARM projects, it's a whole page. Simon.
So, it's enough for me that
But ARM
DPWH is not implementing.
But
because
DPWH
it's in
did
direct
not...
violation of RA 9054.
But DPWH did not implement the ARM infrastructure projects.
Yes. My question is, sayang naman yung fiscal space ng 4 billion. Baka pwede magamit natin for some worthwhile projects also under the DPWH.
Mr. President, you're referring to the 4 billion remaining apart from the 8.3 billion that we excised from the budget and we allocated for free tuition. I am informed that the 4 billion is still with DPWH because they were abiding
Yes.
by what we said. Now, they're waiting, it's 3 months and then it will expire. They're waiting for the ARM, Legislative Assembly, to enact a law, a Public Works Act within the ARM requesting DPWH National to implement the project if they are not capable of fully utilizing or implementing the 4 billion within the ARM. So it has not been legislated. In the meantime, there is no movement for the 4 billion. But once the ARM Legislative Assembly enacts that into law, and if it indicates that they are not capable of fully utilizing the 4 billion, if they say that the 4 billion will be needed by the ARM and requesting DPWH National to implement it, then DPWH will implement it.
Yeah, question is, hindi ba violation ng RA 9054?
Pareho. No,
Yeah, because it will amount to the same thing. It's as if
that's why.
we did not transfer.
Kaya nga walang diferensya yan.
Organic Act yan.
I am told, Mr. President, that once I am informed that if they pass the law and it is their discretion to ask DPWH to implement it or not. It's not clear with me also.
Not
It's
clear
still violative.
with me either, Mr.
Yes,
President.
yes.
Anyway,
Mr. President,
let's leave it at that, Mr. President. Anyway, there's no implementation.
but DPWH is waiting for the ARM Legislative Assembly to pass a law asking them to implement it for them. Meaning,
Which they will not do, Mr. President,
DPWH
because
National is giving the ARM Legislative Assembly the discretion to opt for a DPWH National implementation of the 4 billion project.
that's a legal issue, Mr. President. Anyway, under the 2018 budget, lumiit, pero pareho rin. Organic Act. Take any.
Mr. President, I'm trying to, sorry, I was in a discussion. I'm sure you will.
We're not yet there, Mr. President. So
No, I'm sure you don't agree with what they
I will
intend
not
to do.
agree. I will not agree with that.
Ganito po, ang ibig po nilang sabihin ay yung 4 billion, first, it's with them. and they're not implementing it. And they say that they're waiting for the Regional Assembly to legislate the list of projects worth 4 billion. Okay? They have the right to legislate whatever they like. And then they are waiting for, then they say that the 4 billion will be transferred to ARM. I said that is not possible. One agency cannot transfer it to ARM. That cannot be done. So the 4 billion will have to be returned then to DBM. So I don't think you should wait for the Legislative Assembly to legislate 4 billion worth of projects. You should have returned the 4 billion to DBM already and let DBM decide what to do.
Or request for alignment.
Request
so
for
they can do other projects within the DPWH.
request
That's
for what? I'm sorry.
executive to executive.
Is it for realignment?
Of savings, yeah.
In short, this 4 billion is unspent.
Anyway, we're not yet
Yes.
there, Mr. President. We'll bring you where we are now, Mr. President. There's another 582 million only, no? Hindi naman to 8 billion. Pero pareho rin mas malala pa. Because it's all multipurpose buildings. Multipurpose building, Tulu, Tawi-Tawi, everywhere, all over ARM. Ang tanong ko is, anong return on investment ng multipurpose building? 582 million, again, lodged in the DPWH budget, but for implementation within the ARM area. That's the same thing all over again. Sa GAB. Sa GAB lang yan lumabas.
Mr. President, it was not a submission of DPWH. It was not in the NEP. The 500, to be exact, allocation of 569 million is in the...
582,630,000.
569 ang nasa akin.
Ayan yung niralign sa GAB. Meron ding portion of the 582.
Well,
Anyway,
ano ba, 569. To be fair to DPWH, they did not propose this in the NEP. And there's a letter dated August 22 to the House Committee Chair of Finance, Chairman Nograles, from Secretary Villar, listing the projects in Annex A, saying that it be transferred to the ARM. No, but in short, simply saying that they will not implement the project.
thank you, Mr. President.
But that was August. But the GAB was transferred to us just recently. Meaning, either Congressman Carlo did not read it or still insisted that this be lodged under DPWH for the ARM multi. So I leave it to the discretion again, my Vice Chair, to know what to do.
And, Mr. President, I'll bet my bottom peso, pag lampas ng BICAM to, lalaki ito. I'm quite sure of that. Itong 582 million, asahan ninyo, pag nag-BICAM tayo.
1 minute suspended.
Session suspended.
Ready to resume, Mr. President.
Sessions resume.
May I request that Senator Lacson be furnished a copy of this DBM letter to Secretary Villar dated August 9, 2017. It's a 3-page letter, but in essence, it says that the DPWH budget for the ARM projects must be implemented by the DPWH National. They tried to return the 4 billion DBM, and DBM states with provisions from the DOJ, opinion, etc., from Secretary Aguirre, saying that it should be DPWH that should implement the ARM projects.
I saw that legal opinion, Mr. President.
This letter, I'll give you a copy of this
Yeah,
letter.
anyway, I saw the legal
Yes.
opinion of DOJ.
Pwede rin copy ito.
Lahat ng whereases, baliktad doon sa dispositive portion.
Well, I'm just trying to put that on
Anyway.
record, Mr. President. So, I can see the position of DPWH, Secretary Villar, his hands are tied. The DBM, they tried to return the funds in compliance with the Senate's opinion, and DBM says, no, you must implement it according to your mandate, etc. So, I'll provide you a copy of the 3-page letter, Mr. President. And this 500 million allocation is a repeat of the same situation.
Last 2 items, Mr. President. School building program. Yeah, we agreed on this, Mr. President, during the interpellation on general principles. To DepEd. Because there's duplication of appropriation. Kagab lagi yan nag-a-appear, Mr. President.
I'd like to put on record also, so the 2 letters, we'll spread it into the record. We'll also give Senator Lacson a copy of a September 4 letter by Secretary Villar to the House Finance Chair, saying that the school building projects in the 2018 NEP, he is requesting that the school building projects and the allocation be transferred from DPWH to DepEd. So DPWH na po ang humihingi at nagsasabi po sa chairman ng House Committee on Finance na ilipat na lahat para consistent na sa DepEd lahat.
So at the proper
Because
time-
in the NEP, it was that way until there were allocations that appeared in
Yes.
the GAB.
That's why there is a decrease in the appropriations under DepEd, di ba? Kasi tinransfer sa GAB to DPWH. And DPWH wants it transferred to DepEd. Nagdagdag pa.
Mr. President, hindi po linipat dagdag ng school building. At to be fair, kailangan naman talaga ng school buildings. Pero alam natin, ang bagal-bagal ng implementasyon dahil sa DepEd nang gagaling yung site development and then ang implementation ay nasa DPWH.
Anyway, during the period of amendments, we can tackle this issue. Again, Mr.
I
President.
anticipate your amendment would be the transfer of all school building program projects under the DepEd. Yes, we will accept.
Last item, Mr. President. I read in the news that Senator or Secretary Villar mentioned about the geotagging. I think this is one very positive move to really monitor the projects anywhere in the country. Di ba? And I hope that they continue doing so and implement as early as possible. So, I have other items, but tayo pareho, Mr. President. So, I'll yield the floor to the other members of this.
Salamat.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Lacson.
Thank you very much, Senator Lacson. I request the staff to give him a copy of the two letters and would be happy to receive your amendments per our discussion today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you. Mr. President, next is Senator Manny Pacquiao, but we would like to suspend first
10
the
minutes
session
or
for about 10 minutes for the others to take a rest. But in the meantime, with the concurrence of the minority leader, I think we missed something last night concerning the Department of Agrarian Reform. And so I move to suspend consideration of the budget of the DPWH, Mr. President.
Is there an objection? Chair is none. Motion's carried.
Thank you. Mr. President, last night, the way the minority leader and I remember it, we already submitted the budget of the DAR, but it's still on record, and it seems that they missed it. So for the record, I now move that the budget of the Department of Agrarian Reform be deemed submitted to the body for consideration.
There's a motion. Is there any objection? Chair hears none. The motion is carried.
Thank you. When we resume, we will again resume the budget of the DPWH and Senator Manny Pacquiao. In the meantime, move to suspend, Mr. President.
Is there an objection? Chair hears none. Session is suspended.